To install the Gator Clamp onto your happy compact embroidery machine, such as this 12 needle machine, you'll need to remove the tubular arms that attach traditionally onto the machine. With the tubular arm removed from the machine, set it down and you'll need to remove each of these arms from the sash. You can do so by using your 3mm Allen wrench and removing the 2 screws at either end of the arms. After removing the arms, we'll take the sash and we'll use that to mount the Gator Clamp to it. The sash mounts to the rear of the Gator Clamp, aligned with the holes that are pre-drilled to match the same holes that the arms were mounted to. So we'll attach them together using the same screws that we removed. To start, go ahead and just place the screws into the screw holes loosely and start them each without tightening them down. Now when tightening them down, notice that there's just a little bit of free play between the tubular sash of the machine and the metal mounting bracket of the clamp. You want to make sure that as you tighten them down that these 2 back edges are flush. So right before the final tightening, we'll just make sure that's nice and flush, and go ahead and torque these screws down for a nice firm installation. We're now ready to use our Gator Clamp. Before installing your Gator Clamp, make sure the machine is already powered on. Press the next button to boot the machine into its sewing mode, allowing the machine to perform its normal test of the sewing arm. It's important to do this just in case the pantograph moves in a way that the clamp may make contact with the sewing head. In setting up your Gator Clamp for use on your machine, you can adjust the ride height or the angle at which the jaws dangle from the Gator Clamp sash. That's controlled by screws at the front end of the mounting brackets here. There's 2 of them for each of the jaws. And you can adjust the height of the jaws above the sewing arm by screwing these further in, which would cause the jaw to lift up, or to make them fall down, loosening these screws or back them out counterclockwise, that will cause the jaws to lay further down. It's important that you adjust this once mounted on your machine so that the clamps of the Gator Clamp ride just a little bit above the top of the sewing arm. To prepare your touchscreen machine so that you can align the Gator Clamp and your design inside the sewing area of the clamp, you go into your hoop selection screen and select non-registered, giving you a blank canvas that you can work from, and then you can just rely on positioning based on the trace. This is one way to do it. Installing your Gator Clamp on your machine is fairly straightforward. It almost mounts exactly the same way you would mount your tubular arms. We do recommend that you close the clamps by lowering the levers to make these slimmer to pass under the head. And then simply slide this into place using the same mounting block that you use for your tubular arm, and align it onto the pantograph surface here like you normally would. And bear in mind that this is significantly heavier than the sewing arm, so handle this with care. And you can let it rest here while you're putting your thumb screws in place. However, because of the weight, this is going to hang down a little bit lower, so inserting the screws will require a little extra effort. Hold up the Gator Clamp against the edge of the pantograph so that the screws go cleanly into the mounting block in the Gator Clamp. And as with any attachment that you put onto your embroidery machine, it's important to get these thumb screws nice and tight In fact, if you want to tighten them a little bit more than you can with your fingers, that's even safer. That will hold your Gator Clamp nice and firmly onto the machine. You can control how far apart the jaws are to accommodate different size items. You can just do this by loosening these two thumb screws back here and sliding the arms to different positions. And the clamp is marked with letters and numbers that are on one side and mirrored on the other side, so that you can position each arm symmetrically the same distance from the sewing arm so that your item can properly center with your Gator Clamp. For example, we have letters here, and we've determined for this particular project that the L position will be an ideal spacing to grab our item, which in this case is a backpack with a pocket, and align the outer edge of the bracket with that line and simply tighten down the two thumb screws. Since that's the L position on this side, then if we put the other arm to exactly the same mirrored position, which is also labeled L, then we can feel comfortable that the arms will be the same distance apart from the rotary hook arm. And that's all there is to it. We're ready to sew. With the arms adjusted for our project, just lift up on the levers to open the jaws on both sides. And take your item, in this case this backpack, which we'll be sewing on this pocket, and slide it between those jaws. And it's easy using the markings on the arms to visually line up your item so that it's properly centered. Because of the outward slant of the contact surface of the arms, when you lower the clamp, it will push the fabric tight to help assure a good quality sew out. One way to do it is tighten one arm, and then go ahead and stretch and put the other side under tension, and then tighten your second arm. And you can see that provides a nice wrinkle-free surface to sew on. Finally, we'll perform a trace just to verify fit and positioning of our design. That trace looks great. We'll go ahead and hit start and begin sewing.